And welcome back to the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Super excited to be with you. A little bit of a different format we're going to today. We're going to a Q&A format, something we've done a couple times in the past, but today we're doing it again. So joining me today, a friend of mine, technically my boss too, in a sense as well, but more than less, nonetheless, a good friend of the show, good friend of mine, Dr. Craig Hane, also known as Dr. Dell. He's a math educator and innovator dedicated to transforming how math is taught and learned with a PhD in algebraic number theory and decades of teaching and business experience. Dr. Dell, as the students call him, empowers students and professionals alike by demystifying math. A lot of people think they hear math and, oh, math's scary. We don't like math. It's no good. Using modern tools like the scientific calculator, nice little $10 tool, and Wolfram Alpha, and many, many other wisdom tools and other things alike, his mission is to break down math barriers and inspire listeners like yourself to invest in yourself for a brighter future. So, Craig, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jay. My pleasure.
I'm excited to have you, excited to do this with you. So, like I said at the beginning, we're going to do a Q&A format. So it's going to be question, answer. I probably won't give too much rebuttal or anything, but maybe I'll be able to poke and prod, so we'll kind of see what happens as well. So first and foremost, can you tell the people the origin story of Triad Math? What inspired the creation, and what need were you aiming to address?
The origin story. World War II was the origin story. I turned 5 years old in the middle of World War II. My Uncle Jack Davis taught me to count at home. He was a barber and a builder. My parents were off working. All the adults were working during World War II. And I was 5 years old. He taught me to count. And when I went to school then, they enrolled me in the first grade, even though I was only 5. And none of the other kids have been taught to count. Now, I'm not a bright guy. I'm just an average intelligent person. But I've been taught to count. And my teacher then got me to help her teach the other kids to count. So I had my first teaching experience when I was 5 years old. And I've been learning math and helping my classmates and other people learn math and then apply math ever since. He was a builder. He applied math. He wasn't a math teacher. And he taught me not only then how to count, but he taught me a lot of geometric things that you use in building. And I love teaching. I love learning math, and I love teaching math, and I love applying math. And I continued that through the 8th grade. And then when I was in the 9th grade in high school, I didn't do well in algebra, and he didn't know anything about algebra. And I was told I would never go to college. I was told I was not very good at math. And I was lucky. I grew up in Greencastle, Indiana. There's a university there. And my sophomore year, I had geometry with a teacher who was really good. I did well in geometry. Bad in algebra again my junior year. My senior year, am I getting too deep into this for you?
No, I think you're good. I think you're good.
My senior year, my geometry teacher said, why don't you go to DePaul and take college algebra at DePaul as a special student? And I did. And I had my 3rd grade teacher, then Dr. Clint Gass, in college out, and I did well in it. He became my mentor. So up through till I was 17 years old, I had 3 great math teachers. Uncle Jack Davis, Miss Madonna O'Hare, my geometry teacher, Dr. Clint Gass. If it hadn't been for any one of the 3 of them, you'd have never heard of me. They taught me the math I needed when I needed it and got me going. And then I went off to college. Dr. Gass got me into the #1 liberal arts college in the United States at that time. I went there, I majored in math and English and took all sorts of other subjects. It was a liberal arts college. I was able to teach high school for 1 year under a special permit after that in Ohio. Now, up until then, I tutored a lot of students, and I never had a failure. Whenever I tutor a student, first of all, I think of math as a sport, and I teach it like a sport. And if you learn math the way you learn a sport, and if you like it, you get good at it. And I never had a failure unless somebody just didn't want to do anything work. Okay. When I taught high school that year, I realized the problem teachers had in a classroom because you've got all sorts of different kids with different abilities and different backgrounds and so on. And I wanted to reform high school math education. I've been a victim of it. I saw how other kids were, even though I was a good teacher. There were kids I couldn't tutor one-on-one, and they failed. And there were other kids who were bright, and I couldn't give them what they needed because I had to slow down for the class. And after that 1 year teaching high school, I went back to Greencastle, and Dr. Gass, my mentor now, asked me what I was going to do, and I said I didn't know. And he said, well, I'm going to go on sabbatical. Would you teach at DePaul? So at age 22, I said, what do you want me to teach? He said, I want you to teach the advanced theory in math you learned at Oberlin that we don't know at DePaul. Because Oberlin had like an advanced math department. It was like the #1 school in the country at that liberal arts college. So I went back, and then he said, why don't you go to graduate school and see what you like about that? Because I didn't know what I was going to do. I went to grad school, and I loved it. Now, again, what am I doing? I'm learning math, and I'm teaching math. And I'm also applying math to different things. When I was in college, I helped put myself through college by tutoring students, also by learning how to play poker. Math will help you learn to play cards, for example. There are all sorts of things math will help you do. Anyway, long story short, I went to graduate school, and 4 years later, they gave me what's called a PhD. I call it piled higher and deeper, but it stands for Doctor of Philosophy, PhD. And I studied algebraic number theory. It was an advanced theoretical math, which I enjoy. I like it, but most people don't care about it. What I really cared about was high school math. And so I went to a teacher's college to teach high school math that taught high school teachers. And they hired me to teach their math majors advanced theory, but I stuck my nose into what they're doing. I said, hey, okay, I'll do that, but I also want to help you improve what you're teaching high school teachers to teach. And they didn't want to change what they were doing. And so after 2 years, they fired me. So I went from, now I'm an associate professor of math, making really good money. They fired me. I went to an engineering school and taught there then for 4 years. And then I went off into businesses, and I applied math to all sorts of businesses. All these things are contributed to Triad Math. What happened to Triad Math then, I've always wanted to reform high school math education, make math education available to students. Right now in high school, 90% of the students that study math in high school fail. They may get a B or a C, but if you don't either understand math or you don't, it's like a sport. You either do it or you can't do it. And it turns out if they get tutored properly, 90% succeed. And I knew that. So technologies had evolved to the point where by about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, but 2011, there was enough technology now to use the internet to teach math the way it needed to be done, and I could be a tutor with tutorial videos, not just physically present. And of course, a lot of other things too. And so I formed Triad Math and began doing it. And now I've trained hundreds of students, and most of them were failing at math. Now they're succeeding at math. And it's not because I'm a genius or anything. It's just because I'm able to do things that the schools won't do.
No, that makes sense. So it sounds like the basis of it came from a place of learning. First you learned, then you started teaching. You loved that. And then from there you applied it, and then you wanted to then teach others. You wanted to make those changes. You wanted to see other people also be successful.
Yeah, what happened was after I was a professor for 7 years, 3 years in a teacher's college, 4 years in engineering school. But I started applying math to businesses, all sorts of, and when I say apply math, I'm talking practical math now, not theoretical math.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied it to lots of different businesses, and they were really successful. And then a lot of them would fail financially for different reasons, but they were, and it was wonderful. And I think of them as adventures. To me, what a business is designed to do is to create a product or a service that really benefits whoever buys it, and then hopefully you could do it in a way that you can make a profit and survive. And I did that for years and years, and finally I ended up with a training company going back and teaching math to technicians that work for large companies in the military. They call them skilled tradesmen, but they're technicians. My company was real successful at doing that because I teach them practical math. The problem you have today is 95% of all the students that graduate in this country do not know practical math. They can't go into a technical field. It's really a struggle for them to do. My new program with Triad Math, I can teach a student practical math in 1 semester and get them ready for the military and tech school. And no schools do that.
No, that's true. None of them do. So for those unfamiliar with Triad Math as a whole, I'm sure most people haven't heard of it. Those who do know exactly what it is and the benefits that it has. But for those that are unfamiliar with it, how would you describe Triad Math in a few sentences?
Few sentences. All right, what I do is I take a student that's post-elementary. I'm assuming they know how to count the number system, okay?
Hmm.
12, 13 years old or older. Then what I do is I teach them how to use the TI-30XA scientific calculator to do all arithmetic calculations because no one do them manually anymore. They're hard to do manually. They're error prone, they're hard, and they're boring. And it only takes most students about 2 weeks to learn that. There's only 16 lessons, and they love it. And they say, well, that's easy. I can do that because most of the students that come to me don't like math. They're afraid of math. They struggle with math. Or maybe they're beginners and I teach them the calculator. Then after that, I teach them practical algebra and practical geometry and practical trigonometry, all three of those subjects which you need for practical math in about one semester. And now they're ready for the technical workforce for the military. And they don't need it. If they don't go to college, they don't need to take any more math. If they're going to college, then I have another upper tier program, tier 3, where I teach them the math you need to do well on the SAT to go into college. Now, at that point, are they ready for science and engineering? And the answer is no. Now you need to learn math at a much deeper level for science and engineering. I do that in my upper tiers. And now I use the modern tool that came out in 2009 called Wolfram Alpha. That absolutely transforms the way you learn the math you need for science and engineering. Let's say calculus, for example. Calculus, you've got to have it for science and engineering. The old manual tools are very difficult to learn. On a difficulty level of 1 to 10, it's about an 8. With Wolfram Alpha, you now can do it easily. It's a difficulty level of 2. So it's no longer a barrier now. Calculus has been a barrier to people who go into science and engineering for forever until 2009. So if you're still teaching the old 20th century way of doing it with the old manual tools, students are still not going to do well. With the modern tool, they do well. It's like the old way of teaching math, the way it's still being taught in our high schools today, that I call horse and buggy math, old manual stuff. The modern Wolfram Alpha is like driving a modern automobile.
No, that makes sense. We don't want to use outdated tools. Yeah, like my 7-year-old, she's in second grade. Somehow she's learning something called, like for second grade, I think they're doing like addition, subtraction, introducing like multiplication and division, but they're teaching her some kind of upside down H method to like add stuff. And it's really complicated. It's really weird. But then the thing is, I show her the way I learned, which was just straight up and down. So if you have a 4-digit or a 4-digit number and a 3-digit number, you just line them up and then you add down, 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 down. You get your answer. Straightforward. And I show her that. She's like, oh, well, this one makes more sense. I'm like, how?
Well, math educators have been evolving. First, we got to decide what concepts to teach and what tools to teach. And they've been changing. They keep changing all the time because they always want to write a new book, get a new book, do this new thing. I have what I call, if you join the Triad Math Tribe, somebody wants to know how do you get involved with Triad Math, go to my website, Hane.
We'll get to that. Hold on that. We'll get there.
Well, the bottom line is this. If you do that, you're going to get my Uncle Jack videos, and I'm going to show you the way I was taught math by my Uncle Jack Davis. You can teach your child that. I can't help you with what they do in the schools. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's nonsensical. But you can at least teach your child how to do addition a way they can understand. Yeah, you're holding up a book I wrote, Public School
We'll get
Math.
there.
Okay, it's destroying the USA, but yeah.
No, just because you're referencing just all the things and
Yeah,
no,
I can't.
it's really bad.
It's a disaster what they're doing today. It's horrible. But the good news is any parent now can do it at home and overcome the handicap. Different schools are different, by the way. It's what your school's doing, not necessarily what the school next door is doing.
Yeah, no, true. And different teachers do different things too, right? Based on what they know,
Yes.
how they were trained.
Actually, the teachers are victims today as much as the students are.
So, I mean, we're kind of getting into it right now, but what are some of in addition to the system being incredibly broken and the students and the teachers both being victim of the system, what are some of those other like challenges that students are facing in learning math today that you see?
Well, there's two things you got to do to be successful in teaching any student math. Number one, you got to teach them the proper content, the proper topics that they're ready for and that they will be able to learn and that they will find useful. Secondly is the pedagogy. It's the way you teach it. And it has to be self-paced. Students go at different paces. Proper content, meaning they're ready for the topic you're teaching. Interactivity. It's like a sport. You gotta do it. You can't just listen to someone talk about it. You got to do it. Keep score, which is necessary for psychological reasons, and empathy because they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's good. They're learning from their mistakes. Spike pedagogy, I call it. Explain it in my book. No schools can do that. Teachers can't do that. They're teaching in a classroom, and I explain in my book that you mentioned, and we'll talk about later, why that is. The teachers are helpless to solve this problem.
Yeah. No, they can't do anything about it. They're confined within their space, pretty much. They're confined to the contract. They're confined in their state. They're confined to their district. And they're confined to essentially what they signed up for. They're told what they can teach and how to teach it.
And when I would teach a child, they need to understand, for example, the addition tables. They understand the concept of addition. And they need to know that 3 plus 4 is 7 and 8 plus 9 is whatever it is, 17. But they need to know the addition tables and multiplication tables, say up through 12.
Yeah. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab something because you made me think of something. You're talking about self-paced and fun and interactive. Give me half a second. I'm going to grab something real quick. So what you made me think of. So when I was a kid, I really enjoyed, we had these little my grandma got me these things. They were these little, they felt big to me. So in reality, they're probably like this small. And they had like little turns on them. And you would turn to the two numbers, and then you would hit the side of it, and it would go 4 plus 4 equals 8. And then you could twist it again, and 6 plus 4 equals this. Or then you could switch it to minus. And then 8 minus 4 equals whatever. And then there was one for division and multiplication. I played with those for hours on end, Craig. Hours on end. And I loved it. By the time I got to like second grade, I already knew all the multiplication and the addition through 12 and everything like that. And I'm like, this is perfect. And so I wanted something like that for my kids. So then one day I'm exploring, I'm scrolling through TikTok, of course, and then I find this right here. I actually sent it to you, but I found this right here, which is a fidget. So you've seen like the fidget poppers, right? I'm assuming that you've seen them before. And then this is one, but for multiplication. And addition.
I see this one. Yeah. No, I've never seen one before.
Yeah. So you can use the white for multiplication, or no. For addition and subtraction, you use the white. But then for multiplication, you use the colors. And for division, so you take the flashcards, and then you do this way. And then you can keep track with expos. This all came together, and it's really cool. My kids have picked this up every morning and every afternoon the last few days since I got it. And now my second grader is teaching my preschooler addition and subtraction using it because she knows all her stuff. And now she's passing. She's teaching this because it's fun. Like you said, it's fun. It's interactive. They can pace themselves at learning it and all the things.
What does your school think about it?
I have no idea. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, go ask them. Well, go ask them.
I don't really care what they think about it, honestly, but I can ask just for happenstance, I guess.
Well, you're doing a good thing. You're finding a way to make math into a game, a sport, and they enjoy it. And there's lots of ways to do that. I never saw what you just got. It's fine. I saw flashcards. Years ago, you used flashcards. Today, if whoever's watching this, the easiest thing to do that I do with a young child is I buy them a $1 calculator, a cheap calculator, don't need the TI-30XA, although I could use that too. And I say, okay, I teach them how to use the calculator, and I teach them, here's this plus key here. Now you enter number 3. First of all, I teach them how to count. I do that with, okay, enter 3, and then you hit this plus sign. Now you enter 5. And what do you think it is? Can you say what it is? 3 plus 5. What do you think it is? What do you think it is? And you go, well, I don't know. And pretty soon they count up. They'll count. They go 5, and they go, it's 8. And I go, hit equal. Oh, it's 8. You're right. Now the thing is, keep doing that to where you know it's 8 automatically. You don't have to count up. and use that instead of flashcards.
Hmm.
$1 calculator is better than a whole bunch of flashcards.
Yeah. And this whole set I got was only 25 bucks. It was only 25
Pardon
bucks.
me?
It was
What?
only $25 for that flashcard for that whole set.
I know, and a calculator is $1. So go
Yeah,
buy a
calculator.
$1 calculator. And the point is, and if they lose it or drop it in the stool, who cares? It's $1.
Go to the dollar store and get a new one.
Now the point is, you can do that with addition. Then you do it with multiplication. Again, get them to learn the basic thing. Now, here's a question. If they're going to add 345 plus 692, you talked earlier about how to do it manually. I don't
Hmm.
teach them manually. Use a calculator and hit equal and you got it. They got to understand the concept, but do they have to know the manual tool? Who will ever today pay you to take two numbers and add them up manually with that algorithm?
Yeah, nobody. Nobody will.
Nobody.
You
Ditto for
certainly don't.
multiplication. Now that algorithm you talked about is probably the best algorithm for adding two numbers up.
Hmm.
But they keep coming up with new algorithms, and their argument is, oh, they understand addition better, and that's bull crap. That's bull crap. It's just a different algorithm. There's lots of algorithms for adding numbers. By the way, if it wasn't for the decimal number system, those algorithms wouldn't work. Try to find an algorithm to add numbers with the Roman numeral system, if you know what that is. Roman numerals, that's another system for number. And boy, there is no good algorithm that I've ever heard of for adding or multiplying numbers in Roman numerals. Whoever invented the decimal number system, that was a brilliant invention, because now it's easy to add and multiply numbers. But it's still hard manually, and it's time consuming and error prone. The calculator does it for you automatically. Teach them how to use the calculator, the one dot, to just do addition and multiplication and then division, and goes on from there. Now, the reason I use the TI-30XA is that then after they've learned the basic thing, then they got to learn fractions. Now, fractions, to do manually, is not easy. It's error prone, and it's difficult, and it's time consuming. And guess what? With a calculator, it does it automatically. What is 2/3 plus 5/8? Well, you can do that manually. The answer is it's 1 7/24. You say, oh, what is an improper fraction? It's 31/24. What is it decimal? It's 1.29. That's all done on this calculator. It's easy to do. Some calculators don't do that. If you got a calculator that doesn't do fractions, forget it. This does. There's graphing calculators today they buy for $100 that don't even do fractions properly. By the way, they're all obsolete for other reasons. But so this calculator, now in addition to that, something you have to do in arithmetic, once you start applying arithmetic and algebra, when you start applying it to anything, you have to take square roots. There's an algorithm to do that. There's a manual algorithm. I've taught it many times because back in the old days, there was no calculators. And now today, what's the square root of 398? What's the square root? Do you know what it is? 19.9. I mean, it's like the calculator. And so on. Now, the other thing on this calculator, it also has the trig function, sine, cosine, and tangent. And so when you learn this calculator for $10, calculator, you're now going to be able to learn practical algebra and practical geometry and practical trigonometry, all three of those, in about 3 months. If you didn't have a calculator, if you had to use old manual tools, it'd take you probably 2 years.
Yeah, no, I remember how much of a struggle it was for myself because it was all learning the manual ways and papers and worksheets and
Yeah,
books and
and
everything.
they still do.
It was, yeah,
They
it's
still
so
do.
frustrating. It's so frustrating because it's a waste of time because we already know these kids would be much better suited learning. Just teach them how to do it on the calculator.
That's right. It's worse than a waste of time. They hate doing it. It's boring. It's error prone. It's hard to learn. And they just say, math is too hard. I don't like math. I don't want to do math. The psychology, in fact, Triad Math stands for three things. I told you about content and pedagogy. The top of it is psychology. If the student doesn't believe they can learn it and want to learn it, they're not going to learn it. And the key to getting the psychology right is proper content and spike pedagogy. If you don't do both of those things, the psychology will be bad. If the psychology is bad, you're not going to learn math. I do those two things, and I by the way, I can do it as a tutor. If you want to spend thousands of dollars a month on a good tutor, you can get it that way. Or you can buy it from me. I'm the tutor with tutorial videos and exercises and quizzes. It's doing the same thing. And you can get that for $9 a month.
Yeah, very, very cheap. In comparison, I think as a parent myself, I would much rather spend $9 a month than spend thousands of dollars a month. And another reason that I got this for my daughter is because I know she knows addition and multiplication. I know she's wasting her time in school learning that stuff when she's really trying to she's always asking. And this is one key thing with like kids, right? When they start asking about something or when they start to have the interest about something, we have to capitalize on that when they have it. Because we can't just let that go to waste. She's always asking me what's 2 times 2, what's 4 times 4, what's 8 times 8, what's 4 times 3, all these things, right? And I'm like, well, if she's asking me all these things, let me get her a tool to kind of satisfy that curiosity. That's another big reason why I got her this, because it's, what she's interested in. And
I think what you
she's
did is
really
wonderful.
confident. She's really
What you did,
confident with it.
what you did is wonderful. Get your child a tool that they like. It's almost like a game or a sport, and they learn it. And I think it's wonderful what you did. I'm just saying you can do that with a $1 calculator too.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm
No,
not,
and there's multiple ways to do it. There's
I'm not
multiple
being
ways.
critical of what you did at
Oh,
all,
I know.
because the key is teach the child and with some technology that they can learn and are ready for it. Don't try to teach them something they're not ready for.
Hmm.
Don't try to teach her multiplication if she hasn't even learned addition. And don't try to teach division if they haven't learned multiplication, and so forth. And don't try to teach subtraction until they've learned addition. I mean, it comes into sequence, and then most important of all is use the appropriate tool for the child. You don't need, I mean, if you got a game type tool, that's great. You mentioned the frog or something. If you got a tool like that, great.
Yeah, I love that thing.
My Uncle Jack, when he taught me to count, 1942 and 3, he used something that had just come out on the market, brand new, it's called Cheerios. And he would lay them out. He'd say, here's one, and then here's 2 Cheerios, and then here's 3, and then here's 4. And I explained that in the Uncle Jack videos. And he used Cheerios up through 9 and taught me how to add, what's 3 plus 4? Well, then you add them up. Oh, that's 7. Now what happens when you get to 10? Well, now you got a whole new number. So then that's when he introduced dimes and pennies. Okay, now a dime would be like 10. He didn't use dimes and pennies in the beginning because he's afraid I might eat one of them. I'm only 4 or 5 years old. So he used Cheerios, so if I'd eat them, it wouldn't hurt anything, okay?
Yeah.
But he taught me to count. And when I went to the first grade at age 5, I could count indefinitely. I could count past 100 because he had taught me. I'm not a genius. I'm an average Joe. Any child can learn that. He could have taught any child that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like any child can learn this stuff. They're just not given the opportunity to learn it.
Exactly. And so
In
my
school.
teacher, Miss Lewis, Bernice Lewis was my first grade teacher's name. It was a 2-room school. It was two classes in one room. We had 8 grades in 4 rooms. I'm in with the first and second grade. I'm the youngest kid in the room. I can't sing, I can't color, I can't skip. I'm too young. I'm colorblind. Still can't sing. Anyway, she gets all the first graders up to teach them to count, and none of them have been taught because parents are working. World War II. I'd been taught by my Uncle Jack because he's 60 years old. He's a barber and a builder. He's still living a normal life.
Hmm.
My dad's working in a war plant. My mom, she's working. Anyway, Miss Lewis couldn't believe it. She said, Craig, how far can you count? I said, I don't know. Just keep going. So then she got me to teach my classmates to count. And there's nothing better. You're doing that. You're having your daughter teach her younger kid something. There's nothing better than that. If you've got more than one child, have the older child, if they're capable of it,
Hmm.
teach the younger. Now, sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the younger child will learn quicker than the older child. Don't compare them. Never
Nope.
compare 2 children. Never compare them. They learn at their own pace. Some learn faster, some learn slower. It's fine. Always cheer them for learning more, climbing the ladder. Never ever say, oh, Sally's smarter than Johnny, or vice versa. Never ever do that. It may be true, but don't do it. Sally may learn quicker than Johnny. In fact, as a matter of fact, I've found in my career that girls tend to learn math quicker and easier than boys do.
I think that for at least from my perspective, being a boy, I mean, the girls typically, now having girls, I see, wow, they're so much smarter than I was at this age. You know, they're so much quicker.
I have three children, and the two older ones, my son's my oldest and my daughter, 2 years younger. My son always struggled. He had a learning disability anyway we had to overcome, but he always struggled with math. He could learn enough to get by. He ended up getting a degree in business, and he's now a managing director of Deloitte Consulting, so he's got a big job.
Yeah.
But he's not strong in math. My daughter was very strong in math, and she ended up getting a PhD in computer science, and she's a associate vice president of research and innovation at Michigan State University. She's a lot more talented in math than my son was. Now, it could have been the other way around. I mean, this
Yeah.
is nothing. And then my youngest son was probably more talented in math than she was, because I taught him some math when he was in the 8th grade with a new book that just came out that I use in my upper levels by Dr. George Simmons, called Pre-Calculus Math in a Nutshell. 119 pages, costs $20. When he was in the 8th grade, I gave him a copy of the book, and he studied it, and he won a scholarship to Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology when he was in the 8th grade. Again, he's not that much smarter than anyone else. He just had the training.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing here, right? That's a key here. There's a theme, right? The things I'm doing at home with my kids, the things you did at home with your kids, the things that your Uncle Jack did with you at home that set you up for the success.
And the good news is, any parent today can do this with Triad Math, because the whole idea is, I don't know how math you know, but you're going to get to a point where it's going to go beyond what you know. Triad Math goes all the way through calculus and differential equations. And I have students that have finished it when they're like 16, 17 years old. And they know more math, way more, than any public high school math graduate today. Not even, no comparison. And it's not because they're smarter. They're lucky. They're fortunate because they were able to take Triad Math.
100%. No, and it's something very fortunate that the right people that find this, that are able to take advantage of it, their kids will be uber successful, because we always want better for our kids than we had for ourselves. We want them to be more successful.
It's psychology too. You want them to be self-confident and not be fearful. The thing that'll harm your health more than anything, in my view, is fear and anger. And if you're afraid of something, that's not good for your health. If you get angry because you're frustrated, and math is a source of both fear and anger for a lot of people. Well, you can't go into this field because you don't know the math. Well, that's anger. It's also fear. So it's not just learning math, it's overcoming the psychology that affects your health. I was blessed that I had three wonderful teachers. If I hadn't had those three wonderful teachers, you'd have never heard of me. My classmates didn't have that. My classmates were just as smart as I was, but they didn't have the three wonderful teachers for various reasons. They're all dead. Every one of my good friend classmates is dead today. A lot of them have been dead for a long time. I don't have any fear or anger. Why not? Now, there's things I can't do. There's a lot of things I can't do, but I can do the things I want to do. But math has empowered that, and it'll do it for anybody. I am not a genius. People say, oh, well, Craig, PhD in math, you're a genius. No, 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 no. I am average Joe, believe me. I'm a lucky average Joe, but I'm not a genius. Anybody can do what I've done. In fact, I had something happen today that I couldn't believe. Well, I won't get into that, but I had something today I learned that I didn't know, that you would know, and almost anybody would know, and I didn't know it. And it has cost me a lot of grief for several months now. And I learned it today, and it's a trivial thing now that I've learned it.
I'm just curious, what was it?
I watch YouTube videos all the time because there's everything on YouTube. Not a lot of junk, but great stuff. Okay. I use what I call the supercomputer, which is a Raspberry Pi, to watch it on my big TV. and my supercomputer has become obsolete because it's an old one. Chromium won't be upgraded and so on. And so I've actually ordered some new supercomputers and I'm having them worked on so that I could watch on my big screen TV. I mentioned that today to my wife. And she said, well, Craig, because I'm watching YouTube videos right now, I'm watching this on the Dell computer.
I know where this is going. I know exactly where this is going. Keep going. I know exactly where you're going. You're going to where your wife said, Craig, why don't you just watch the YouTube videos on YouTube on the TV?
Correct. She said, hook your computer. And I said, can I do that? She said, well, I've done it. She's got her own office.
Yeah.
And so I went in here and in 5 minutes, I'm hooked up to the big TV and I don't need the Raspberry Pi. And I'm going, holy moly. In fact, I'll show it to you.
This
If I
is
can,
this.
let me watch this. I'm going to show it to you. Just a minute. I got to.
Sorry, and Craig, I'm laughing, but this just goes to show that Craig is just an average guy, an average Joe, a lucky average Joe, be it. But trust me and Debbie, if you join the Triad Math Tribe, we'll interact with you, and Debbie and I will tell you that Craig is an average Joe, just a very lucky average Joe that he lined his cards up right. He was empowered to do what he did through math, and it's just really cool. So I'm not laughing at you, Craig. I'm laughing with you. I promise.
No, that's fine. And that's good. And if I'm going to show you something here. Whoops.
We don't need no whoops, Craig. Don't whoops on me.
There it is on the big TV. There we are on the big TV. There you are on the big TV. And I found that out today. So now what I've done, by the way, every failure can lead to an opportunity. So guess what I've done? I've got a bunch of old Raspberry supercomputers based on the old Raspberry Pi. And they're basically obsolete now because they haven't kept up with the Chromium browser. You can't upgrade the Chromium browser.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd ordered 2 new Raspberry Pis. I got one of my gals working on it, thinking I had to have that because I wanted to watch on the big TV. Now I don't need them. So I've now taken them to my engineer who lives down in South Carolina or North Carolina, and we're going to upgrade them into the new supercomputer.
Very cool.
And I wouldn't have done that except I bought 2 of the doggone things, the modern ones, and just for my TV. I don't need them now. Today, I told my gal here in Bloomington, I said, send them down to Jeff in North Carolina, and he's going to upgrade them, and we're going to have the new upgraded Raspberry supercomputer.
Very cool. Yeah, no, you learn things along the way, right? So back to our regular scheduling programming though. I get off track. See, I wanted to do this question and answer, and here we are. But it's fine. Were there any? No, hold on. Yeah, were there any moment of doubt or obstacles you faced while developing Triad Math and developing the program?
Well, only personal ones. I because of math, I've been in many businesses in my life, and I went broke back in the 1970s because I had businesses that, while they were successful at one level, they failed financially. Big difference between being successful and failing. Then I had a business that I started in 1980. I had a lot of businesses. I got one going in 1980 that for 2.5 decades was very successful. I made millions of dollars. In fact, I goofed off for about 15 years from age 55 to age 70. I basically just traveled the world and played around, and I could tell you stories for hours about things I did. There were just fun things to do. When the banking crisis hit in 2009, I was worth $3 or $4 million, but I had a couple of bank loans out, not very big ones. They took me under. I went broke when I was 73 years old. Gone, lost my home. They took it all. Now I had a good friend. He was worth 40 million going into it, and they took everything of his too. So it wasn't just me. It was a crisis that took a lot of people down. Now, what do? You're 73 years old, and you've lost your money. And I said, well, the technology had evolved to the point where I thought I could do Triad Math. In fact, I started playing with it in 2009, which is when the bank thing started. I fought them from 2009 to 2011. I fought the banks. I went all the way to the Indiana Supreme Court and lost. But anyway, I started playing with some of the technologies of the day, GoPro cameras and some of the old technologies, saying, I wonder if I could do something with math now. I've tired of traveling. I've been up And by 2011, when the bank thing ended and I'm broke, I realize now I can start Triad Math. The only problem is I don't have any money. So guess what? I won't give you the details. I applied math that I know. And by 2014, I was financially independent. It took me 3 years to recover financially. If you know math and know how to apply math, you'll never have a financial problem in your life, ever. You will always. I have one of my videos on financial freedom, and I have a bunch of wisdom tool videos, and I applied wisdom tools. I didn't let it get me down. The only thing that depressed me is we lost a beautiful home we lived in, and I was depressed because of my wife. But I've been married 58 years now. She's very, very resilient and very upbeat too.
Well, she's married to you. Of
And
course she is.
so
Just kidding.
I recovered financially in 2014, just kept on going. We've probably got today and Triad Math, all the technology and everything we've done, we got a couple $1,000,000 invested in it to do what we do. Now we still have overhead and expenses. I got people working for me. Well, you're an example. You're part-time doing some things with us. And I'm not your boss. We're colleagues. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know all sorts of things I don't know, and I got you to do this. Okay. Well, anyway, that's what I think anybody can do if they learn practical math. In my wisdom tools, I teach people how to achieve financial independence fairly quickly in life. But math is the key to me is math. Now you can do it other ways, but one way to do it is practical math, and then get into a technical field that you like, that you're good at, make $40, $50 an hour or more. I got to where I was making a lot more than that ultimately back when I was doing my Hane training company, because I hired people to work for me. I think in the year 2000, in 1 year, I made $500,000. But I had 30 or 40 employees working for me. I trained them, and they were making good money. Anyway, that's, I don't know how that's the story. I think that math today is destroying the USA because we're not training our children the math they need to be successful. And that just really irritates the heck out of me. So today, as you very well know, I'm 86 years old.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then, Craig. Let me ask you this. What are the core features of Triad Math that differentiate it from traditional math teaching methods? Since we're heading down that path, let me just ask you that question to keep us going down that path.
Content and pedagogy. That's the answer. Proper content, and that means the subjects that they're ready to understand and it will be of value to them. Pedagogy is the way it's taught. I use spike pedagogy. I explain in my book, in a chapter of my book. Read the book if you want to know. Content and pedagogy. And it's only possible because I deliver everything over the internet. The tutorial videos come from Amazon Web Services, and we have a learning management system, and it's a very sophisticated system to deliver it. And any student can learn from it. Any student can learn from it. Well, I say any student. 9 out of 10 students will be successful.
Yeah. So without the technology, essentially without the technology we have today, there wouldn't be Triad Math. Because Triad Math
Absolutely.
is fully integrated in with today's technology.
Yeah.
We're playing with it. We're playing with different things on the back end, some really exciting things that we're playing with and messing with and creating that I'm personally creating and we're helping develop. So it's really cool to see what technology can do and how it can benefit students.
Yeah,
it's really cool. So from your perspective, how can math education evolve we'll keep it in the United States. I would ask globally, but let's focus here just on our country. So that's the experience here. So how can math education evolve in the state to better prepare students for future challenges?
Well, I explain that in my book, obviously. So if you get a free PDF copy of my book at my website.
Yep.
Or you can buy it on Amazon for less than $5.
It'll be linked in whatever videos that we put out.
Okay. Well, the answer is simply this. One thing they could do today is they could simply use my Triad Math program for all of their students. I mean, all of them in any school. I've had a couple private schools do it, and the math teacher become counselors and work with them that way. And because I'm the tutor then, and they buy my text, the notes and exercises books come from my printer that does them very cheaply called Amazon. Instead of a $300 algebra book, you get my notes and exercises for $6. And you get and instead of getting all the stuff that's taught in high school algebra in the big books that's irrelevant. I teach what you'll use. For example, in practical algebra, there's only 10 lessons, and that's all the practical algebra you'll ever need. Now, if you're going into science engineering, you need more algebra at a deeper level, and that's when Wolfram Alpha comes in. So the schools could adopt my program. So if they either adopt my program or something even better that might come along, but they're not going to do it because they don't want to give up. Every high school math textbook today is obsolete. That's $1 billion industry. They don't want to give them up. They're all obsolete.
Yep. So what advice would you give to educators, to the educator that may be listening to this? I know I have relationships with quite a few teachers and whatnot. They're hesitant. What advice do you give to the educators who are hesitant to adopt new methodologies and do things like Triad Math?
Well, it's a sad story for them because it means give up everything you've learned about math education and adopt the new technologies. You're obsolete. Let me give you an example. I was teaching at engineering school back in the early 1970s, and we used to teach the slide rule that had logarithm tables on it and trig tables in a round slide rule. Trig tables and log tables is how engineers did math back then. That was the tools they used, manual tools. The first scientific calculator came out in 1972. The HP 35, Hewlett-Packard 35 keys, HP 35. In today's dollars, this is 2025, isn't it? I think we are.
Yes, we're in 2025, Craig. We're good. We're 10 days in.
In today's dollars, that calculator costs $2,500. But every engineer then that was doing engineering bought one because you could do your arithmetic with it in a fraction of the time that you could with slide rules and log tables and trig tables. Nobody would pay you to use the old manual tools. You had to use a calculator. Texas Hewlett-Packard thought they would sell 10,000 of them that year, and they sold 100,000 of them. I was teaching engineering school, and some of the rich students, a lot of students had money, they bought them, and I got and looked at one, and I go, oh my God. And I go to the math department and say, what are you going to do now that all these courses you're teaching with slide rules and trig tables and logarithm tables is obsolete? Well, they like to die. And it took them 10 years. It was 10 years before they quit making slide rules. It took them 10 years to finally adopt. Our schools today, as far as math goes, will either adopt something like my program, something as good or better, or they'll die.
Yeah. Because even now, like kids who are going to be in the age, targeted by Triad Math at post-elementary school, every smartphone that they have or they can get, like, they have this. They have this right at their fingertip. They don't have to, they don't have to go and buy it. They have it right here. They have a whole scientific calculator right here.
And in the 1990s, when scientific, first of all, let's go back to calculators. Hewlett-Packard was $395 in 1972. A year later, a couple years later, they took it down to $195. Then along came Texas Instruments, and they came out with a better one for under $100. But that was still back in the 70s. So that's still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, it went down and down and down. And now today, you get the TI-30XA, which is a much better calculator than any of those original ones, $10. If you'd have had a TI-30XA during the Manhattan Project, it'd been worth $1 million. Because you can do things with it you can't do manually. Okay. Then they came out years later with graphing calculators, which at that time were state of the art. They all became obsolete in 2009. Why? Wolfram Alpha. Free. Wolfram Alpha is like a miracle tool. I can't believe what it can do. You can put in the math program that you need solved, and it goes off to some big computer somewhere because Wolfram Alpha is a mathematical program. Mm-hmm. Runs on some big computer. It goes over that, solves it, gives it the answer back. It's unbelievable. It transforms the way you learn math and the way you do math, both calculus, differential equations, and beyond that. I go all the way through at the high school level, differential equations. No school ever teaches differential equations. That's way too hard for high school. Usually you don't get that till you're a sophomore in college. I have kids now 16 and 17 that go through it. They understand it. They can do it. Then you go on from there. And of course, Wolfram Alpha goes way beyond that, but that's as far as I take it for high school.
Makes sense. And you said that's the TI.
Yep, TI-30XA. You can buy it anywhere for about $10. Walmart, Amazon, wherever.
Yeah, Walmart's going to be the cheapest at about $11 actually, because inflation. You're looking at 1082 at Walmart, 1089 at Target, 1799 at like Office Depot or.
Now, the key to that is then, well, I don't know if you want to say it now or not. You join the Triad Math Tribe for $9 a month, for $9, and you have access to all 6 tiers of my math program, everything, plus all the wisdom tools, which we haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
And you could go in with your student. This $9 for one person. They could go in and they could probably learn how to use the calculator in 2 weeks. Now, it's a tribe that's $9 a month forever if you want to stay in it, but you could stay in it for a month, and then if you learn the calculator and you don't want any more, you quit. But if you continue on, you're going to learn practical math probably in about 3 or 4 months, algebra, geometry, and trig. And by that time, when you go through my practical math, algebra, geometry, and trig with the calculator, you'll know more math than 95% of all high school graduates in the United States. And you'll be ready for a technical career or the military.
Yeah. Speaking of the wisdom tools, one I really just want to highlight, like one of that's probably my favorite personally. And I actually talked about this today on another podcast I did with someone else that she actually brought up the concept. And so then because of the wisdom tool, I was able to talk to her deeper about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And it was really cool. So I'm like, oh, wait, I know what that is. I learned about that. I learned about that from Craig. I learned about that from Dr. Dill. How cool. And the wisdom tools are really useful. They're really practical. If you're anything like me and think and talk at 1.5 to 1.75 speed, you can speed up the videos. I personally speed them all up to 1.5, 1.75 listening speed. My wife hates it because every time she gets in the car and my stuff starts to play, it's just like talking so fast. And she's like, how do you listen to this? How do you process that? And I'm like, I don't know, I just do. It just makes sense
Well,
to
I'm
me.
like your wife. I have a hard time understanding you because you go so fast.
I
I
know.
do understand you, but I'm like your wife. Different people are different.
Yeah, definitely.
In fact, I'm a little hard of hearing now, and when people talk to me, they have to talk slowly and enunciate clearly, or I don't hear them. But that's partly due to my age and that sort of thing. I'm 86 years old, and I don't take any medicine, and I don't have any aches or pains. People go, how can that be? Well, I don't have any fear, really, and I don't have any anger. I'm not angry at anybody. I feel I look. I love everybody, and I see good and bad in everybody. I see good and bad in Joe Biden. I see good and bad in Donald Trump. I mean, I see good and bad in both of them, and it's like I've got good and bad in myself. We all do. I mean, that you're a human being, right? And so, but math is, to me, see, is God's language. If you learn math, you'll be able to do things you cannot do any other way. And so you mentioned intrinsic and extrinsic. Find something you love to do, and if it involves knowing math, then you'll be able to do it. Let's say you're interested in landscaping. Well, you need practical math. Any technical field, you need hydraulics, pneumatics, electrical, you need practical math. Once you know practical math, then you can learn these technical subjects pretty easily. Find something you love to do. That's intrinsic motivation. And by the way, once you do that, you'll probably make $40, $50 an hour instead of $20 an hour. Then you're okay, especially if you live in a low cost area like I do. But today, so many people, they have jobs they don't like. They just work for a paycheck. In my wisdom, get to where you're not working for a paycheck. You're working because you love to do it and someone pays you. Larry Bird said he would play basketball for the Boston Celtics for nothing because he loved basketball and he wanted to play for a team that could be a champion. Now, they paid him millions of dollars, but he would have done it for nothing. I mean, he was intrinsically motivated.
Yeah, no, and you have to be. I was just watching something yesterday, and it definitely the extrinsic motivation. I was watching the UCLA men's basketball coach. They got blown out by Michigan, the Maize and Blue, by like 30 in a college basketball game. And if anybody today that's listening watches the NBA or watches college basketball, it's a terrible product to watch. It is absolutely one of the most boring things to watch. Because all these kids do, they think they're the next LeBron James and the greatest thing since sliced bread, every single one of them. And so then they think they don't have to work. They think it's just all going to be handed to them. And me and a buddy of mine were talking about this, and he has a son. He's like, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I may not let my son play basketball because they just get handed everything. They just get coddled and handed every little thing that they ask for. And so they become very entitled. And so then the UCLA basketball coach is basically calling all his players, all his assistants delusional. Like they're all delusional. Like I come in with the most energy every single day. I come in and I work the hardest out of all of them every single day. They're not fired up unless I'm fired up. They have nothing. They're just delusional that they're just going to be successful. But then we just got blown out by 30, 40 points, but they don't see a problem with it. They don't see any issue kind of thing. So there's no like intrinsic motivation. They're extrinsically motivated because now they have NIL money and they college athletes get paid and they get endorsements and things like that now. And so that motivation to absolutely dominate and be the best isn't that anymore. And then if you watch an NBA game, it's the same kind of BS, load management and not playing every game and not playing all the minutes and being soft on fouls and everything. And someone that goes a little bit too hard sometimes, like one of my favorite players, Draymond Green, gets flagrants and kicked out of games and suspended because he just went a little bit too hard. Like, boo-hoo. Like, grow up. You're a bunch of grown men playing basketball. Throw some elbows. Throw your body weight around, right? You're super freak athletes. Like, you're fine.
I everything you say, I agree with. And I quit watching sports and I quit watching news 15 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe longer. I don't watch it at all. Years ago, I was I would watch the sports. I was never an athlete. I mean, I was an amateur. I played rugby and I wrestled and things, but as an amateur, just, when I was young. You're right. It's sad because so many of those people, when they end up in bad situations. Yeah, you got to do something that you love to do and got to earn your way. And by the way, if you take something that you like to do, you can probably get good at it in 2 to 4 years if you really work at it. Now, that means you're the best, but you're good enough to make a living. Now, if it's NBA basketball, no, probably not. I mean, there's so few are going to ever,
yeah, it's going to be the top
there'll be so
1%.
many.
It's going to be the top
Going to be
1%.
a very small number of people. I mean, Larry Bird went to the school where I taught, Indiana State University, when I taught. That's a teacher's college in Terre Haute, in Indiana. And I knew Larry, not well, but I knew him. And he was intrinsically motivated. And Bob Knight had recruited him at IU. IU had the big basketball team in Indiana. And he went to IU, and he was a hick from the sticks like I was. He was from French Lick, Indiana. And he was there for like 2 weeks, and I couldn't take it. Couldn't get along, just so out of place. Went back home for a year, and then Indiana State recruited him. Indiana State was nothing in basketball, nothing. I mean, they weren't Big Ten, they were nothing. And he went there, and he was so good that he made his teammates good, because his big thing was passing to his teammates. It wasn't just that he was shooting. In fact, his teammates had to learn to catch these passes because they came so, and he always knew everything on the court. Anyway, long story short, his junior year, they had a tremendous season. And now he's from this little school that is nothing. Red Auerbach from Boston Celtics comes and sees him play and drafts him when he's a junior. And for, millions of dollars, however much it was, Larry Bird said, no, I'm going to play at Indiana State one more year because I think we could win the national championship. So he didn't go to the Celtics. Now, if he'd have gotten injured that year, that would have cost him millions of dollars because he had never played pro. That's the year they went to the final game and lost against Michigan State with Magic Johnson. Okay? But they went to the final game. I think they were undefeated until then. I think.
So, yeah, they had one of the best college basketball seasons ever.
He was so intrinsically motivated, he practiced harder than anybody. Nobody even came close to touching his practices. Then he goes to the Celtics. Thank God he didn't get injured. And everybody said he's too slow. He can't jump very fast. That's all true.
Mm-hmm.
Man, could he pass that ball and dribble it and do shots. But what they found out is the team members there found out on a game day, they'd go out on a game day and he'd be up running around the bleachers. And he out-practiced any of them. And of course he became, in my opinion, one of the basketball players, greatest of all time. I mean, there's several others. Michael Jordan probably, and LeBron James
Yeah.
maybe today. Who the knows? But anyway, he's a great
He's
basketball
definitely up
player.
there with one of the original greats, right? He's definitely up there as one of the founding. The NBA wouldn't be the same without Larry Bird. Like
No.
the NBA would not be anything close to what it is today without Larry Bird.
But that's an example of intrinsic motivation. He did not play for money. He played because he loved the game. And by the way, he had a younger brother came along. Didn't have that intrinsic motivation, didn't do anything. He played at Indiana State, but you never heard of him. You never heard of Larry Bird's younger brother.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of like the Ball brothers, right? There's Lonzo Ball, who was really good, plays in the NBA, really good, the oldest. But then there's LaMelo Ball, who's way better than him. But then there's this third brother who tried to make it and was absolutely terrible and couldn't do it. Or like Patrick Mahomes' younger brother, Jackson Mahomes, who just has all the bad PR and just nothing close to Patrick Mahomes. So
Well, you're talking about a bunch of people I never heard of because I don't follow
yeah,
sports anymore.
yeah.
I've heard
Anyway,
Mahomes is a football guy, but in any event, intrinsic motivation is, to me, if you're going to have what I call a happy life, a successful life, you've got to find something you're intrinsically motivated to do, get good at it, and people will either pay you to do it or they'll pay you to teach them to do it. I know an artist, for example, good artist, but not going to make a fortune with their art, but people pay them. Ditto for musicians and so on and so forth. And, I've earned my living more or less teaching other people things they needed to know. Now, because of math, I could teach a lot of other things. I could teach electronics. I applied it to things. I could teach them those things, but without the math, I couldn't have done it. My first course, by the way, in Hane training was how to troubleshoot op-amp circuits. You ever hear of an op-amp?
no.
Well, that's short for operational amplifier. And what that is, that's a little integrated circuit that is like an analog computer. And it was in all electronics everywhere. And you had to know how to troubleshoot it. And the only books were about how to engineer it. I put together a 2-day workshop on how to troubleshoot it. And ultimately that made me many, many, many millions of dollars. And it was because of the math I was able to understand it. I could understand it from the engineering book because of the math, but then I could teach it to people with much less math. You wouldn't have heard of me today if it wasn't for op-amps, if it wasn't for the practical math that went into op-amps. Now, there's a lot of other things I did. I developed, in fact, I learned about it when I developed something called the Dynabrain, and that was a computer to test racing engines on water brake dynamometers. And you may have heard this story. But I developed that in the late 70s using a microprocessor, Intel 4040 amps. My customers were NASCAR race teams. And you know who my most famous customer was. You've heard me tell you.
Yeah,
Tell the story.
Craig, give me just
Learn
1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pause this real quick, and I'm just going to go use the restroom real quick because I can't focus because I got to use the restroom. Give me 1 moment. I'll be right back.
All right, fine.
All right, back to it. Sorry about that.
I had a date for 3 o'clock with my bride.
Okay.
So I went and changed it to 4 o'clock because this is going longer than I thought, which is fine.
Yeah. We'll wrap
But
this
my
up.
bride,
We'll wrap this up soon.
You know about my bride. You know about my bride, right?
Mm-hmm.
58 years she'd been my bride.
That's so cool. It's a long time. It's a very long time.
A long time.
That's a future wisdom tool. The marriage one. We got to get some wisdom tools for that. Just had an idea, but we'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, Dale Earnhardt Jr., all the things. But so kind of fast forwarding through all the things, let's fast forward to today. What the heck is next for Triad Math? So we're in 2025 today. Lots of great things have already been done. Many students impacted, many families impacted, many careers impacted, many individuals impacted for the better because of Triad Math. But what's next? Are there any new features, expansions, or projects on the horizon?
No, not really. The thing today now is to get more people involved. I believe, as I explain in my book, that first of all, I formed the new thing is the Triad Math Tribe with the wisdom tools. So you get a lot more than math now. In fact, even if you don't need any math, the wisdom tools alone is probably worth God knows what, lots of money to you. Because you mentioned a couple of them, but there's like 24 of them, and there's going to be more all the time.
There's 25 right now.
And there's going to be more, because there's always new things to learn. But anyway, and every one of those wisdom tools, by the way, had a positive effect on my life. Look, as I say in the early, life consists of two things: problems and opportunities. Those determine the actions you take, and the actions determine consequences, and that determines your life. Wisdom is understanding the consequences of actions. And what these wisdom tools do is to try to let you understand what are going to be the consequences of the actions you take. Then you can decide what you want to do with your life and what kind of life you want to have. And I don't care about that. That's your decision. I don't tell you the kind of life you should have, but here's going to be results. Okay. What I want to happen is I want any, well, let's just start with the United States, but it'll go beyond that. Adult that wants to improve their life, I want to help them do it. Some of them, math will help. Some it'll be other things. It'll be the wisdom tools or both. And so Triad Math Tribe is designed, and my mission today is marketing. It's going out and spreading the word. It's getting people to do it. Triad Math is pretty much what it is. It can be improved a little bit over time, but not much. It's what it is. And yeah, with the new AI tools and stuff, I can probably do some things in the future. You can always improve something a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it's there. It's great, very successful. You ask a question you ask at any school. There was a school in Maine, Grace Christian Academy, that had tried all kinds of different math programs. They heard about Triad Math from a homeschool teacher, and they were skeptical. But the headmaster was also the math teacher. So he had two motivations. He adopted Triad Math and couldn't believe how great it was. It was Aaron Farley, and I've got testimonials from him. And it took his students, most of them not liking math and not doing well, to being successful at math. And they wanted more math. It was unbelievable. The testimonial was fantastic. So I believe we're going to probably start with private schools, homeschool co-ops. Eventually, I want to penetrate public schools. I don't know if we can or not, because the teachers union and the math educators will hate it because all their textbooks are obsolete and the way they're teaching math is gone. They'll become counselors. In fact, most of them are going to learn math they don't know. Very few high school math teachers know the math I teach in Triad Math. A lot of it they don't know.
Yeah.
By the way, there's all sorts of things that's in the books that I don't teach. For example, I don't teach irrational numbers. There's all sorts of things that are obsolete in the books I don't teach. It's a very unique, different program. The only way I could do it was start with a blank slate and do what I know is needed and what will fit the students. And I had to ignore, there's no math textbook today that I would teach math out of, none. Well, I do use George Simmons' Pre-Calculus Math in a Nutshell. I teach a little bit out of that. It's a $20 book. And I do use that some, but I'm just mixed in with all my other stuff.
I think it's possible within the next 5 years to start to penetrate public schools. And here's why. Because one of the goals of the second Trump administration here with, not Stephanie, that's the daughter, Linda McMahon. And everyone recognizes the name McMahon. It's the same McMahon from the WWE universe, to come in and basically run the Department of Education, but then by the end of the administration to absolve of the Department of Education and to flatten the building and to make it into a freedom park. That's the goal of the next 4 years, which is kind of bizarre, kind of crazy, but majority of people who've been through the public education system or who have children in the public education system, like myself, know that it's not anything that it once was. If you know the history of it, right, it was essentially created to help develop factory workers. That's correct, right? With the bells
Yes.
and the bell schedules and things like that to
Correct.
get people to follow bells and routines and go place to place and to educate them enough to a point to then have enough skills and literacy and whatnot to essentially go and be factory workers. But then that stayed even past the industrial boom.
That is true, but worse than that, math educators, the system we have today in high school math goes back over 100 years. And as they were developing the textbooks and the content, mathematicians got to start interjecting into it too. And they put in math that mathematicians like that's of no value to anybody except a mathematician. For example, the square root of 2 is an irrational number. The only person that cares about that is a theoretical mathematician. Now, I know all about it, and I can teach you that, but you don't care. No scientist cares. No engineer cares. The irrational numbers had nothing to do with science and engineering. Nothing. It's all theory. And I could go through and I could take an algebra book today or any of these high school books and I could point out all sorts of things of that nature. Say, well, this is obsolete. This is a manual tool you'll never use. This is a theoretical concept you'll never use. And I don't cover any of those in my 6-tier program. And so it's going to be, as far as math goes, it's going to be a radical change. Now, what McMahon's going to do and what Trump's going to do and all that, I do not know. Tell you what I'm trying to do. Anybody listening to this, if you're involved with public school, I will work with any private school or public school to go in and help you. In fact, I'm trying to do that right now in Indiana. We have a new governor now, Steve Braun, who I happen to know, not well, but I've met him and talked to him down in his home in Jasper, Indiana. He was a senator for 6 years, and he found out he couldn't do crap as a senator, as a young senator. At least that's my opinion. I don't know. I shouldn't speak for him. But he came back, and he now is the governor. And I'm going to him and say, can we find some schools in Indiana and go in and start using Triad Math to help at least the students that are failing, also help some of the STEM students. Indiana, whatever school does this, will be the best math school in the country.
Far, yeah.
Indiana can take any school it's got, and if they use Triad Math, it'll be better math than the best schools in the country, public schools.
Yeah.
And probably private too, because the private schools are victims too. They use the same textbooks by and large. I mean, they're trying to get away from them, and they put them online and all that, but so what? In fact, that makes it even worse sometimes. So I don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to predict the future.
True.
What you say may be true. After all, Vivek and Elon both are talking about radically changing the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Man will probably be behind it. You never know. I mean, God only knows what's going to happen.
They want to revolutionize everything, Vivek and Elon, is what they do. So they want to make the whole thing efficient. They want to make the whole model efficient.
In my, if you watch if you go to the Triad Math Tribe, I have a 40-minute video that explains all about the tribe. And one of the things I explain is our goal is to eliminate war, any kind of major war, because with modern technologies, a major war could destroy civilization as we know it. And I'm not talking about nuclear. I'm talking about a lot of other things too.
Yeah,
And at the very end, I say this. It's kind of a Charles Dickens thing. We live in the best of times, but we also live in the most dangerous of times. I don't say the worst of times, the most dangerous of times. And so I believe that if we can get 1 million people in the United States, you still there? Oh yeah, you're showing it. If we could get 1 million people in the United States to learn the math I'm teaching, I think that would improve our economy dramatically and our society dramatically and let our government do more than it's doing. I think that would be the key to having Vivek and Elon and Trump and all the others successful. But math education has to be dramatically reformed, really from the ground up. And that's a tough, that's a tough one to do. Whether they'll be able to do it politically or not, with the government, I don't know. It may just be a groundswell, because what's going to happen is, let me tell you this. If we get a bunch of public schools going out here using Triad Math, and their students are doing so much better than others, the others will have to come along. So it may come from the groundswell up, or maybe it'll come from top down. I don't know. I'm not predicting.
Yeah. No, it's hard to predict too. Again, you're totally right. We don't know what we don't know. We just kind of have to wait and see. We're still 10 days out from the inauguration, and we're already seeing there's so many things that have already happened in 10 days this year already. So we'll see. But like you're referencing here.
And as of today, we don't know who's going to be the next president of the United States. As of today, this is January 10th. We do not know who's going to be the next president.
A lot can happen in 10 days.
That's the point. Joe Biden could die, and our next president could be Kamala.
For 10 days, yeah.
For 10 days.
Yeah, that was one conspiracy. That was one conspiracy I held on to for the longest. That if they were going to do that by now, they would have done that. Is taken.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? And Trump could die, and then JC could be the next. I mean, you don't know. Hell, it could end up being Johnson. How could it be Johnson? You know how Johnson could become president? Biden and Kamala both die. Johnson's the president. Speaker of the House.
Yeah, Speaker would be the next in line. He's the third in line. Yeah.
You don't know. Yeah. Now, if I have to bet, I'll bet that the next president will be Donald Trump. That's my bet.
That's what the betting markets say, right?
I think he'll live 10 more days, and I think he'll become president. And the thing about it is, I mean, you mentioned politics. I'm an independent, by the way. I voted I have voted almost every election for the winning president ever since I voted for Barry Goldwater, and Lyndon Johnson won. They told me that if I voted for Barry Goldwater, that we would have an escalation of the Vietnam War. And I voted for him, and we did. Johnson escalated the Vietnam War. I voted for George W. Bush. I think he's the worst president we've ever had because of Iraq and all that. I voted for Barack Obama. Now, I did vote for Donald Trump in 2016 because of my feeling about who would do what. He was unknown, but I was convinced that the neocons would control Hillary. And so I voted for Trump, hoping, and I think he did a pretty good job. And then he got beat in 2020. And then he's done all the things he's done. By the way, the Supreme Court yesterday ruled against him. So everybody says, well, he loaded the Supreme Court. They'll do whatever he said. No, they voted against Donald Trump yesterday. You know about that.
Yeah, they voted against the TikTok ban. His appeal.
Well, he's now a convicted felon. So
we'll have our first today. Yeah, that today. Yeah.
We'll have our first president as a convicted felon, and I'm fine with that. I mean, it's like I'm glad the Supreme Court did it. In fact, I hope that they would vote.
At least it's it's something, right? Yes, he got the conviction, right? You can say what you want about the lawfare and everything else, but honestly, you look back at least he's the one that's convicted. What about all the other ones that aren't?
I'm just saying, I think it was I think he'll win on appeal. He said he's going to appeal it. And by the way, the good news is the Supreme Court voted against him, and he complimented him. He said they did the good thing. They did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Donald Trump wanted him to vote against him.
Yeah.
To prove that they're not his puppet. The Supreme Court is not Donald Trump's puppet. Because people have been saying, oh, the Supreme Court, we need to load it up with more people. No, it's Donald Trump's puppet. Well, it's not. And I think that proved it. I actually think Donald Trump was happy that I think he's happy that he's going to be a convicted felon as a president.
Yeah. Let them run their narratives. Let them run the narrative.
And then he said he's going to appeal it, and he'll probably win the appeal.
That's how he's won most of the things, have been through the appeal process.
But that's just who knows. So there's people that love him, people that hate him, and I I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I talk a lot about that, and in fact, I've got wisdom videos on that about money, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and people need to watch those wisdom. I learned things I didn't know. There's 25. I lost count. I knew there was over 20. Every one of those wisdom videos helped me improve my life. Most of them I learned from other people. Some I learned the hard way, and I'm still learning. I learned one the other day. I didn't know that. Helped me improve my life. He said, well, you're 86 years old. How do you improve your life? Well, hell, you can always improve your life. I don't care who you are. You can always improve your life and the life of and more importantly, improve the life of the people around you. In fact, the way I improve my life is helping other people improve their lives. People say, well, why do you do Triad Math? You don't need the money. No, I don't. I don't do it for money. Why do you do it? Every time I have a student or the parent of a student come to me and thank me and say, oh my God, thank you so much. My student, has done so much better. That's my reward. That's my reward. And I get it almost every day. Every day I get a dopamine shot because somebody thanks me for what happened. People I don't even know. I mean, I don't know 95% of all my students because it's all done on the internet. I love it when a student contacts me and thanks me, or a parent contacts me. I mean, that's why I do it. That's why you ought to do whatever you do. You're doing it with your own children. I did it, with my family, obviously my children, but I love all children. If anybody listens to this video and does something to improve the life of some child, I'm rewarded by that. My teachers, for example, should be honored. Uncle Jack Davis, Madonna O'Hare, Dr. Clint Gass. If it hadn't been for any one of those three, you never would have heard of me and I couldn't have helped you. So they get credit for, if I'm helping you or a child, they get credit for it. Also.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And if I help some child have a better life, I may never know that child or hear about it, but it helped them. And somewhere in karma, if you believe in the afterlife, and by the way, I talk about, I've got these free videos on my website. If somebody wants to just learn more about me, go to my website, craighane.com. I've got a video called, go to craighane.com.
Yeah.
That's where they should go.
I was going to show a
Like
few
that.
different things. I was going to show a few different things here.
What?
I was going to show a few different things. Because all the videos you're talking about, all the ones from craighake.com, the recommended video
No, I want
is
go to Craig. Do me a favor. Go to craighane.com.
not that one. Okay.
Since people are wanting, go to craighane.com. Now, there's a video library that's free videos about all kinds of math subjects if you like math. One near the bottom is called Math Proves God Exists. And that's based on science and math, not on religion. And I talk about Dr. James Tour. I talk about Dr. William Tiller. Now go back to the main page. Go back to the home page. These are all free videos. They're not training. They're just interesting things. Now down there are some tabs, and one of them says, learn how to improve your life. Do you see that? Click on that. Learn how to improve your life. No, the tab, right? The orange tabs.
My bad. My bad.
That's okay. I want people to see this. Click on that.
Yeah, that'll take you back to.
And then where did it take you?
Go
Should it?
back to this one.
Now you go to this one. There's a 40-minute video here. If you watch the 40-minute video, you know all about the tribe and all the benefits you're going to get. It's a $9 opportunity, but what you really got to invest is your time. If you invest $9 and then put in 20 or 30 hours of your time in that first 30 days, you'll probably get hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of value out of it. If you don't, believe me, I can't help you. If you put in 20 or 30 hours and it doesn't improve your life over the course of your life by thousands of dollars, well, sorry. And then you're going to go on and stay in for $9 a month because there's so much, it's a lifetime thing. You're going to learn and learn and learn. I mean, you can't possibly learn all this stuff in 30 days. It's going to take you years to learn everything I'm going to teach you. It's taken me decades, so you're going to learn in a few years what it took me several decades to learn. I'm teaching you in just probably a few years of your time what took me decades, and I've had a fantastic life. Most people that know about me and know what I've done, they go, oh my God, how do you do all those things? How do you go up the Amazon River and Machu Picchu and Istanbul and all over Europe and the Loch Ness, on and on and on and on, Costa Rica, on and on and on. People can't believe the life I've lived. It's math, baby, math, and what it empowered me to do. And you can do it too. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. And you may not want to do that. You want to do things I didn't do. Do you know how many miles I put on a motor home in the United States with my family? Well, 100,000 miles. Now, my family went 4 summers. My family, when they were young children, went to every state in the Union and Canada, Vancouver Island, because I was working. I was using math to teach people things they needed to know, and I took my family with me in the summers. Now, during the winters, I was on my own. And when I was on my own, I worked 16 hours a day because I had nothing else to do. If you're doing something you're intrinsically motivated to do, you'll work 16 hours a day. You love it. You love it. Whatever you're doing, you don't do it for money. You do it because you love to do it. And the money comes, then the money will come. I learned that when I was 10 years old from my Sunday school teacher. Craig, if you live the right kind of life, follow the golden rule and the other things that you learn in the New Testament, just the rules, you have to even believe in it. If you follow the rules, you'll never want for anything. God will always provide what you need, and I did. I went broke twice in my life, but it didn't hurt me. I always had plenty of money. Even when I went bankrupt, I had money to do what I needed to do. Most important thing in your life, of course, to me is your family. That's your most important thing. That's me. It may not be for someone else, whatever. And I teach all that. And good health is a big thing. If you don't have good physical and mental health, you're going to have a shitty life. And I have videos on that. Good mental health, good physical health. How do you achieve those? And you might say, well, you're just lucky. No. Yeah, I was lucky. Okay, I had good genetics probably, but more importantly, I had good habits and good addictions. I tell that story.
Yeah, that's another good wisdom.
Do you hear my story?
Another good one. Habits and addictions is another really good wisdom tool. And there's a lot of really good wisdom tools. And there's a lot of really good stuff. There's also a very the YouTube channel is also very interactive. If you go and you search the playlist on YouTube, all these recommended videos from the website are also all there on one singular playlist as well, so you can just watch them all.
Well, stop. You're going too fast. What did you just say?
My bad. So if you're also over on YouTube, you're over on the Triad Math YouTube as well, you can find all the videos that you're referencing from the
No, you cannot find the Wisdom Tool
no, not
videos
those
on
ones,
YouTube.
not those ones. The videos that are also on your website, right there in that video library. You can find all those, and then quite a bit more over on the Triad Math YouTube as well.
That's right.
Organized in the same order. There's other
Yeah,
ones in
but
there as well. So
if you find them they're interesting, fine and dandy. If your time is valuable, you want to get the most value out of your time, go to the tribe and start watching the Wisdom Tool videos, which you cannot get on YouTube. They come from Amazon Web Services, and that's the only way to get them. And if it's appropriate, start studying some math. For some people, that'll be the thing to start doing. For others, it'll be the Wisdom Tool videos. For some, it'll be both. And the more time you put in, the quicker you'll learn, the more you'll learn. And in 30 days, if you'll put in 20 or 30 hours, believe me, you'll learn a lot already. And then you'll just keep on going because you want to learn more. It's going to take you literally hundreds of hours to absorb the training I'm going to give you in the math and the Wisdom Tool videos over a long period of time. It's not overnight. I don't think it will be. I wish it would be. I wish I had a magic wand and I could wave the magic wand and you'd get all this wisdom and, real quick and easy. But I can't. I don't have a magic wand. Most of the Wisdom Tool videos are 30 or 40 minutes long. Some shorter, some longer. But you might have to listen to them several times and think about them. Think about them. Understand them. It takes time to understand these things. You talked about extrinsic versus intrinsic motivators. You watched that video. I don't know how long it was, not too long. But if you listen to it one time, is that enough? Or do you have to listen to it a second time or a third time? I don't know. Depends on you, the person. But anyway, the most efficient use of your time now is to join the Triad Math Tribe. That's the most efficient thing you can do.
So the person they start here, essentially, right? Right where I'm browsing the cursor. They start right here. They can download the PDF or they can watch the video. And from
Correct.
there, then they select their plan.
That's right. Then they join for $9 a month. You just went away.
Yep.
Then they can join for $9. And if they say, hey, I know I want to stay in it, they can join for $99 for a whole year.
And that's for one. That's for one member.
This is for one person. Now, what they're going to find out once they join, and I even explain that in a video, there's a thing I call the Army, which is $30 a month. No, you're going to the wrong one. Go to the
I was just clicking through for what the people are going to see when they go to next.
You went, whatever you just went to there is the wrong one. Yeah, they won't go there. If you go down there, right below it, it says a TMA. You can go down below and click on that one, down below.
Oh, there it is.
Down below, you click on that. And I explain it in the 40-minute video. You go there, you enjoy the Triad Math Army for $30. You get a lot more now. But now you can also train all your children. You can make money. You can do a lot of other things. That comes later. Join the tribe first. And then you can join this. You can upgrade to this anytime you want to. You'll do one of three things if you join the tribe. A, you'll drop out because you don't like it. B, you'll stay in it at $9 a month for a long, long time. C, you'll join the Army for $30 a month because there's a lot more you can do if you want to. And you learn all about that in the 40-minute video. So go invest 40 minutes of your time in the tribe site and watch the 40-minute video. If you won't invest 40 minutes of your time, chances are I can't help you. Good luck.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Have a great life. Have a great life. And there's a lot of people that, by the way, you're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to learn, educate yourself, and work at it. It ain't free. I'm not giving you some pie in the sky freebie. Oh, you do this and you make a lot of money. Bull crap. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to go out and make a lot of money for doing nothing, for doing very little. There's a lot of people claim you can do that. Maybe you can. I'm not making that claim. I'm claiming you can improve your life in multiple ways. It's not just making money, by the way. It's having a better relationship with people, a better family, better tribes, how to win arguments, blah, blah, blah. In fact, when you watch that 40-minute video, I'll tell you what all these wisdom tools are. At least I'll describe some of them to you, not all of them. Kind of here's what you would learn. And it's taken me decades to learn them. And one of them cost me a bankruptcy. It cost me millions of dollars. If If I'd have known it, I wouldn't have had that problem. But most of them I learned from other people. And so anyway, there's that. So what do you think?
I think that's it. I think that's great. I think there's a lot that the listener can do. I think I'm glitching out on my end. So if you're watching the video and you see me glitching on the screen, then that's because it's over the time that I usually record. So my computer's like, what are we doing? Why are we still going? But no, this has been great. A lot of fun. A lot of really good stuff came from this. I think the people will find it highly beneficial and they'll get a lot out of this. So I'm really excited. With that, we'll end this and we'll move on.